You are welcome to my YouTube channel, my online students, and you all are welcome to my class. Today, we are going to look at a very interesting topic, salt analysis in chemistry. All right? In the last video, I told you that salt is formed when all the replaceable hydrogen ions of an acid are completely or partially replaced by metallic ion or ammonium ion. All right? And I also told you that salt is also formed alongside with water when acid reacts with base in a chemical reaction known as neutralization reaction. I will give you the illustration to remind you of what we discussed in the last class. Here is the reactivity series. This is potassium, sodium, calcium, magnesium, aluminium, zinc, iron, tin, lead, hydrogen, copper, mercury, silver, and gold. Silver and gold. Here is the reactivity series of metals showing the order rate of reactivities of metals. As you are going down from potassium down to gold, the rate of the reactivity of metals here on the board is decreasing. That is to say, potassium is more reactive than sodium, which is more reactive than calcium, and calcium here is more reactive than magnesium, and so on. That is to say, the one at the upper part are more reactive, and as you are going down, their order of reactivity is decreasing. Now, let's pick this as an acid. This is acid, hydrochloric acid. It's reacting with metals. These here are metals, right? Now let's look at metals that are more reactive than hydrogen in the reactivity series. When we discuss about water, I told you that potassium, sodium, and calcium are referred to as active metals. Why? Because they react with cold water to displace hydrogen gas and produces a basic oxide. Why? Magnesium, aluminium, zinc, and iron are known as semi-active metal. Why? Because they don't react with cold water, but they react with steam to liberate hydrogen gas and produce oxide of metals. All right? Then here from tin lead down, they don't react with cold water, they don't react with steam. Likewise, they don't liberate hydrogen gas. All right? Now, here, hydrogen is trying to form a salt. From what I've explained, that metals that are more reactive than hydrogen, when they react with acid, they will liberate hydrogen gas and form a salt. Now, hydrochloric acid here on the board, let's say it's reacting with sodium. Here is sodium atom, all right? 2 moles of hydrochloric acid reacting with 2 moles of sodium atom is going to give us, this guy will displace into 2. We have chloride ion, we have hydrogen ion, and of course here is sodium ion. All right? Unlike charges attract, while the like charges repels. All right? Sodium here will react with chlorine to give us sodium chloride. You understand? And what again? Hydrogen is going to be liberated as a gas. All right? Hydrogen is liberated as a gas, and a salt is formed. The salt formed here is known as sodium chloride. All right? Now, this is how salt is formed whenever acid react with metals that are more reactive than hydrogen in the reactivity series. Here we see sodium here, and here is hydrogen. Sodium, being more reactive than hydrogen, can easily knock off hydrogen from the acid and produce a salt. Then hydrogen is liberated out from the whole chemical process as a gas in form of hydrogen gas. Now, let's look at another form of formation of this salt. I told you that salt is also formed whenever acid reacts with base to produce salt and water in a chemical reaction are referred to be neutralization reaction. And in this process, the, the positive ion of a base combine with the negative ion of an acid to form a salt. All right? While the negative ion of the base reacts with the positive ion of the acid to form a water. All right? Let's pick one acid. Okay, let's say HCl reacting with sodium hydroxide. All right? Here is the base, then here is the acid. All right? Acid reacting with base. Now, this will dissociate into ions. We have here the sodium ion, we have here hydroxide ion. Then here dissociate into ions too, all right? Here is hydrogen ion, then here is chloride ion. Now, the positive react with negative and the negative react with positive, all right? Because like charges repels while unlike charges attract. Now, let the positive ion of a base combine with negative ion of the acid, and the positive ion of the acid combine with the negative ion of the base. All right? When the positive ion of a base combine with the negative ion of the acid, it is going to give us, remember the reaction is known as neutralization, abi? Neutralization reaction. Okay? This combined with this, sodium ion combined with chloride ion to give us sodium chloride, which is a salt. Now, the hydroxide ion combined with hydrogen ion to give us H2O, which is water. All right? Now, acid reacts acid reacts with a base. This base here is an alkali because it is a soluble base. All right? The two react in a process known as neutralization reaction to give us salt and water. Do you understand? Now, this salt here, all right, can dissociate into ions. I'm going to explain more of that in the topic known as electrolysis. All right, I've discussed in our previous class that acid, base, and salts, all right, they are used as electrolytes when they are in form of a solution. Now, the topic we're going to discuss here is source analysis. All right? We are going to analyze the ions that are present in a given salt sample. All right? You have a salt, you don't know the name of the salt. Now, how can you know the name of the salt? It is by salt analysis. All right? The practical experiments or procedures that indicate the ions that are present in a given salt sample, and by doing so, after you must have known the ions, the positive and negative ions that are present in a given source sample, you can from there dictate the name of the source sample given to you. Now, let's dive in. I believe you are through with this on the board. All right. So I wipe it. All right. We are going to look at the 5 key ways. The 5 key ways to unlock anions. Let me write it in capital letter. The five key ways to unlock anions in a given salt sample. All right? The anions we have on the board is a negative charged ion. All right? That are present in a given salt sample based on the topic salt analysis. The word salt analysis. Analysis means to break down. All right? Analyze means to observe what we have. Now, here in the salt analysis, the experiment, you break down the salt samples into different ions. All right? Now, like I said earlier, here we have the five key ways to unlock an ion. So whatever I'm going to show you here is the procedures we use to detect the anions that is present or maybe that are present in a given salt sample. And remember, that given salt sample is an unknown salt sample. It is after you must have known the anions and the cations that are present in the salt sample, that is when you are going to be able to dictate the name of the unknown salt sample given to you. Now, let's look at the first experiment used to unlock the anions in a given salt sample. I said there are how many in number here? There are five in numbers. All right? They are number one. You have here unknown salt to an unknown salt. We are trying to find out the anions that is present. These five keys are the words you are going to use. All right? If the first one did not work, you use the second one. If the second one did not work, you use the third one. If the third one did not work, you apply the fourth and the fifth one. All right? If the first one did not work, it simply shows that the particular ions that we are going to expect when you apply the first method, the first key, all right? If it does not work, it means that that particular ion that we are going to get here is not present in that source sample, and that is why it did not work, all right? So let's proceed. To an unknown salt sample, here is the unknown salt sample, right? Then you add barium chloride to that unknown salt sample. All right? You add barium chloride to the salt sample. Then, if the salt gives white precipitate, after you must have added the barium chloride, all right? The salt gives what? White precipitate. If it gives white precipitate, all right, then you add dilute hydrochloric acid. All right? Because formation of the white precipitate shows that the particular ions is present. Which ions are that? We have here the sulfite ion. We have here the sulfate ion. All right? Giving white precipitate shows that these two ions are present. One is sulfite ion. Let me complete the table very well so that you can understand perfectly. All right? It shows that these two ions are present. All right? One is sulfite ion, the other is sulfate ion. All right? After you must have added barium chloride, if the salt gives you white precipitate, it shows that we have any of these ions present. Remember, they are negative ions. That is why we call them anions. All right? Now, after you must have arrived at this point, the next thing to do to know the particular ion that is present, because giving Y shows that either this or this are present in the source sample, after you must have added the barium chloride. Now, what next are you going to do? You are going to add dilute hydrochloric acid. All right? After you must have added the dilute hydrochloric acid, look at what is going to happen. Any of these two I'm going to write on the board is going to happen. It's either the precipitate dissolved, or the precipitates do not dissolve. Do you understand? It's either the precipitate dissolves or the precipitates do not dissolve. Now, if the white precipitate dissolves, it indicates the presence of sulfite ion. All right? If the precipitate dissolved, it indicates the presence of sulfite ion. Then, if the precipitates do not dissolve, this shows that the anions that is present in the source sample is tetraozosulfate ion, which is also known as sulfate ion. If the precipitate dissolves, after you must have added barium chloride to the sample, which gives white precipitate. If the precipitate dissolves in the presence of dilute hydrochloric acid, it indicates that the sulfite ion is present in the source sample. Do you understand? Then if the precipitates do not dissolve, it shows that the anion that is present in the unknown source sample is sulfate ion. Is that clear? All right. Now, the second way to unlock unknown source sample, here is unknown source. All right. Now, here it occurs in the presence of concentrated H2SO4. All right. Then you add ion tetraozo sulfate 6. All right. You add ion tetraozo sulfate 6 to the unknown source sample in the presence of concentrated tetraozo sulfate 6. All right. It gives black precipitates or it gives brown ring. All right. If after you must have added ion tetraozosulfate salt to an unknown source sample in the presence of concentrated tetraozosulfate salt, if the sample gives black precipitate, the ion that is present is nitrite ion. All right. Then if it gives brown ring, it shows brown ring, the anions that is present is nitrate ion. Do you understand? And the second key, you added ion tetraozosulfate salt to an unknown salt sample in the presence of concentrated tetraozosulfate 6. Then, if it gives black precipitate, the anion that is present in that salt sample is nitrite ion. Then, if it gives brown precipitate, the anion that is present in the source sample here, which is unknown, is nitrate ion. Now look at the third key. The third key here is our normal unknown salt, right? The unknown salt sample. We don't know what the name of the salt is. All right. Here we add silver triazonitrate in the presence of concentrated tetraozo sulfate 6. All right. Now, these are the colors we are going to observe. All right. These are the colors we are going to observe. If it gives white color, it indicates the presence of chloride ion. All right. Then, if it gives pale yellow color, it indicates the presence of bromide ion. All right. Then, if it gives yellow color, that indicate the presence of iodide ion. Do you understand? So these are the color change that indicates the presence of different ions. Here we have halide ion, chlorine, bromine, iodine. All right? The chloride, the bromide, the iodide ions are present. All right? Depending on the color change. I said, to an unknown source sample, you added this salt, silver triazonitrate 5 salt. All right? In the presence of concentrated tetraozosulfuric acid. If the source sample gives white precipitate, all right, it indicates the presence of chloride ion. If it gives pale yellow precipitate, the anion that is present is bromide ion. Then if it gives yellow precipitate, the anion present is iodide ion. All right? Then number 4, to an unknown source sample, unknown source, we add lead acetate paper. All right? We add lead acetate paper. In the presence of dilutes, H2SO4. All right? Then if it gives black precipitates, all right, it's either it gives black precipitates or it gives brisk effervescence, or it gives brisk effervescence. Now, the black precipitates indicate the presence of sulfide ion. It indicates the presence of sulfide ion. All right? Then, if it gives brisk effervescence, the anion present is carbonate ion. All right? Triazo carbonate ion. Then the last key used to unlock the unknown salt sample is by you rub the salt sample, all right, to know if it gives vinegar smell, if it gives vinegar smell. All right. Now, vinegar is a typical example of organic acid. All right. Now, if it gives the vinegar smell, it indicates that the anion's presence is an organic ion known as acetic ions. All right. You rub the salt sample and perceive the smell. If it gives a vinegar smell, that shows the presence of acetic ion. All right. So here on the board are the 5 key ways to unlock the anions present in a given unknown salt sample. All right. This is where we are going to stop for today. Thank you and God bless you. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. In the next video, we are going to look at the 8 key ways to unlock cations present in an unknown salt sample, with which will help us to know the name of the unknown salt sample. All right? This is all we have for now on the salt analysis. Stay tuned for the next video, where we are going to complete that of the 8 key ways to unlock the cations present in an unknown salt sample. Thank you.